If you're interested in the hype of vibe coding, then I have to disappoint you if you follow those who tell you it's easy, because it's not. However, in the past month, I was able to create this application here, just pure vibe coding. This is a very complex application, I'd say. I will quickly show you the tool, but then I will tell you a lot more behind the scenes, what is going into the tool, what you need to know, what tools I'm using to build this. And it's very easy. I ended up just using Visual Code and Claude Code, and that's it. It's as crazy as that, and it is insane what you can do nowadays. But I will go a bit deeper to tell you the journey of all the tools that I used until I got to this point. But here very quickly I can search for, Apple Notes, for example, and I can drag it in here. I can say it's a satellite app, and well, that's based on the ICO methodology. So it has a foundation behind this, but you look the dynamism that I was able in here. And this was all done with pure vibe coding, with talking and prompting to the AI. I also have a system check in here. So this is again based on our ICO methodology, where we have for each concept and workflow that we are teaching a question that then gives a summary of everything. We have an integration with our membership. When people click there, they get directly to the relevant lesson in order to learn what this is all about. Then, and that's the beautiful thing here, is the analytics board, and that was the last thing I was working on, which is giving you insights into what other users are using. And right now I only have 4 test users, which is all me testing the application, right? So I filled out their tool stacks as you have seen here, but then we can go to the analytics and see a lot more insights from the community. And the goal is really to build a community-driven tool finder based on what people place their tools onto this ICO framework, which defines what these tools are used for. We will get a lot of insights of what the people are using, and our community are busy professionals who are using these tools. And now I can have a job title, company size and industries, and I can select the tools based on that. So it narrows this down. I can click on me, so that would be just people who have exactly the demography that I have myself. We can filter by PKM and maybe tools that have both PKM and PPM, right? So we will get a lot of insights how people are using these tools, but it gives users then also the insights what is most commonly used. And this is the beauty here. You might know it from Amazon. People who bought this also bought this. I made this for the tools. So here are the tools that I selected on my tool stack. And now when I click on Todoist, I get people using Todoist. When we look at this, things that I'm currently working on is the notes, okay? So we can actually add notes to any tool that are personalized, right? So this is automatically saving. You see this is syncing. So these tool stacks are syncing. Another thing I want to add is save snapshots, so people can have versioning of this. And I'm also working on the dashboard where everything then comes together. So currently there's the results from the quiz. And well, it's not a quiz, it's really a system check where then people can filter by the things they said no to and then focus on the individual concepts and workflows they need to improve on. And you see, there's a lot of backend interaction and linking of databases and so on going on. And this is crazy when you do this just with AI. I didn't write one line of code to make this application. So that's for sure. We have a profile section where we have the account sections, subscriptions, all these things are here. We have an admin panel where we can add new tools, and that looks pretty ugly right now. So this is a lot of things, When it comes to design, you have to have understanding. And now we dive into what it means to build something like this just with Visual Code and Claude. So let's dive into this. So I think I share quickly a bit about the journey that I have behind me. So it all started with the Claude Opus 4 being released, okay? So the moment this came out, I literally started using Claude for the first time because I've been a heavy ChatGPT user before that, and not for coding, but for so many other things. But when I saw this Claude Opus, I immediately went to Claude and started prompting, and I was amazed what just the chat itself was able to produce in just a few minutes. Let's go to the initial concept work that I made, which was this. This was the first version of this tool tracker, and this literally was, I don't know, half an hour, if even maybe 15 minutes to create this, where it actually understood this. The tough thing here obviously is that you have to understand how to calculate these areas and so on. But this is the beauty now. I'm an on-off developer just for fun, as a hobby, never serious. The thing is, I always understood the high level of the structure and everything, but it lacked in syntax and really understand, the different code snippets that I need in order to pull these things off. Then we saw AI coming out and I started playing around with it and got really moving forward, like a Copilot for Visual Code, for example, that really helped a lot to auto-complete the stuff. But guys, this is going beyond auto-completion because now I have a discussion partner. I can talk about a problem. That's the first issue that many vibe coders think they can do. They just tell AI do it and it will figure it out, but it doesn't. If you don't have an understanding of what is going on the back end, how the databases are connected, and we will get into this in a moment, how it is connected here, it will mess things up for sure. And I had major bugs, for example, when I was dragging this around. It was offset, okay? So the tool was about there and the mouse was here. So what do? You tell AI, hey, this is going on, it's offset, solve it for me. Yeah, it tries to solve it and it will keep trying. But the problem is it's adding more stuff to the tool. It makes things that make no sense anymore. And this is really a bad thing. So by the back and forth, and seeing what AI is responding and trying to solve, I get ideas what the actual issue could be and prompt the AI to go there and look into this from a different perspective. And this is how we solved most of the problems. It might take a few hours to figure it out, but if it is a crucial feature like this, it's worth the investment because the end result says it all. And the same was here for the filtering. When I clicked on this, it kept just showing the user's own filters. It wasn't including this as an end function and many things that you need to understand what's actually happening on the back end. And here a bit about my background. I studied physics. I made a PhD in biochemistry. I was in big industry for 8 years building database systems. I was running IT teams there in the manufacturing IT for the production lines. And this never gave me the understanding of coding, but it gave me the generalistic understanding of how systems work, how they work together, what is essential, the key components that you need in a tool and so on. And this understanding is now my superpower because the only thing that was missing was the coding understanding. How do I manually code these things out? And this is what AI is now taking off of my shoulders. So this is why this is so amazing when I have coding sessions with Claude Code and we come to a moment why this is the best one compared to Cursor and Windsurf and all these other things. This is crazy. This is really talking on eye height, and AI is the specialist in getting the code and I'm the specialist in understanding, keeping the full picture in mind. And there are many people telling you have to make a plan and make the to-do list for the code, for AI and so on. Yeah, that's all true, but you have to be flexible and agile in the whole process because while you're creating the product, more opportunities appear and you need to be able to react to this. So I will show you a few tips and tricks how I do this with Claude Code and how I was able to build this beautiful application that is not finished yet but will launch very soon. So if you're interested to join the early access, make sure to follow the link in the description below and join our community because we open the doors soon to this. So you see the background. Now don't be intimidated by this, right? If you're motivated and maybe you have coding background, there are many ways to approach this. All I'm saying is that you need to have a key understanding what's going on. You cannot just go blindly and tell AI, hey, create this amazing app for me without understanding how everything interacts and should be connected with the app. No code involved. It is just a high level understanding of your application, what it should do. So the next step after Claude was then testing Lovable and Bold. I tested both. I paid a lot for these to start and it was interesting to see how it started creating all the stuff. But I was never able to finish it because I had no access to the code. Even that I'm not coding, I understand if there is nonsense going on or not, so I can adjust the AI. And I always thought the AI doesn't get the full point. Now I think Bold upgraded to using Opus 4 too from Claude, but this is where I can say testing Cursor and Windsurf, which, especially Cursor, they offer Opus 4 connection. This is where you can lose a lot of money. Man, I was then using Cursor and these new 4 models, which is on their max plan. And I think after 2 or 3 prompts, I ran out of credits. I had to pay on the go, and a few more prompts it says, well, you hit your $50 limit, go to $100. And I said, this is crazy. And that's where I realized the best and cheapest solution that I can have is literally using Claude Code in Visual Code. It all started with using Claude Code. So this version, this direct integration with the IDE, I used it in Cursor because you can do this in Cursor too. But at some point I questioned, why am I using even Cursor for this when I can do it in Visual Code? I didn't see the advantage in Cursor because Claude is not getting the awareness than the Cursor chat has if you have it this way, but it has enough awareness of your code base if you focus on specific parts of your application to really move forward like a beast. And then I supercharged the whole thing because this was the end solution, was Visual Code. I'm just saying here that the application is built on React and Tailwind. This is the framework that I'm using, but it's just Claude Code doing all this. And I'm only using Opus 4 all the time, and I have hours and hours of sessions in a row without issues. There was sometimes a moment where it says you're reaching the limit of Opus because I had 2 Claude Codes running simultaneously, but I never reached it because after 5 hours it resets and I can keep coding. This being said, I had to upgrade to the max plan for Claude. So you see, I'm now on the $200 plan here. So when we go here, you see there's this $15, that's nonsense, but at least this you need, which is the 5 times. And there I was starting to hit the wall frequently with Opus, and I rely 100% on Opus. I don't trust, well, Sonnet is great and so on, but I have some complex problems. I always realized Opus is solving it. And after a few prompts, I increased to 20 times more, which is $200, because as I said, if I would have kept using Cursor with Opus, I easily would have hit $500, even $1,000 per month at the speed I was using Claude and relying on just the Opus model. And I didn't want to mix up models. I know many say, hey, for the easy stuff, use this model, and for the complex stuff, use this model. No, man, it's like I want to have one developer with me sitting there with the same mindset and not constantly bringing in an internee to help me out with some other stuff. No. This needs to be professional from the ground up. And that's why I doubled down on Claude Code Opus 4. And the big thing that I realized, and no matter what they tell you, I mean, you might have seen it in other places too, that Cursor is somehow changing how Claude Opus works in the results. And I had many big issues, and sometimes there is a status shutdown of Claude because the demand is so high. Who knows, right? So that's when I went back to Cursor because I wanted to keep going. And I said, no, let's call it a day, because it was not able to create the things that I wanted in a way that Claude Code would do it for me directly. And this is where the last piece was coming in then, that what I really was missing and I loved from Cursor, is the integration with MCPs. So Claude was already able to push to GitHub, so we have the versioning, something I highly recommend when you do any kind of coding, but especially for vibe coding, it's really helpful if you constantly push and commit so you can roll back at any time. The app that you're building, especially with this, and if you have no idea what the AI is doing, will crash. It will crash bad so that you're not even able to open it anymore. And then you have to understand how to go to the console, how to get the error codes and so on. This is where I really was happy that I had GitHub all the time. I went from mock data just after the first 2 iterations directly to Supabase to have a proper database in the backend, and to Vercel to deploy the React application effortlessly and have then, the error check and the custom domain and everything. So this is for the front end and this is for the back end. And the easy thing is that I was doing all the time. Claude was creating some SQL queries to, build up the tables inside Supabase and the things that I needed, but it was blind. So I constantly was backfeeding the schema that I have in Superbase, so Claude will understand the actual structure going on and so on. And then I was manually bringing the code, run the code, get errors, bring back the errors. Claude was checking and say, okay, I adjusted the SQL file, do it again. And that was a real pain. That's why I started integrating this with MCPs directly. And again, this is perfectly doable if you're in here. So when you go here, MCP, these are the 3 MCPs that Claude Code is connected now. It has access to Perplexity, it has access to Puppeteer, which allows Claude Code to literally open up this application and move the cursor, press the buttons, look at the console. I don't have to pull out the arrows anymore. And it is a complete different way how it does problem solving. And Superbase, so it can look at the back end into the tables, figure out if there's any issues with the triggers or the functions and so on, and directly fix it. This is something I didn't want to do in the beginning because I wanted to do these things manually to stay in control of the back end. But the more I trusted Claude Opus, the more I was doing it. And obviously we have to give restrictions. So whenever I prompt something to Claude Code, I usually say, give me your implementation plan, but wait with executing it and wait for my response or my approval, right? And then I see the full plan. I can see, is it going the right direction and so on. And then we move forward and it starts implementing. And it's also important. You cannot just tell it, do something and then go away. I'm sitting here watching Claude Code doing all the reasoning. And then you immediately see, oh, it's going the wrong direction. Oh, it's now deleting some things and so on. This is very important to keep an eye on and always stay connected with Claude Code for most cases that I'm trying whenever I make new features, because it will break other features otherwise. Another thing that I was doing, obviously something you might know also, that Claude Code makes, well, like all these AI coders, make long code files. Okay, so a lot of lines, it goes beyond 500 up to 1000 and so on. So at some point when I stopped prototyping and I thought I want to build an actual app, I just told Opus to go through this, take best practice to set up the application and what we have and what we plan, you know, to make the right structure. Is it 100% right? Probably not, but it is a lot more easy to read the whole code by, you know, going through this myself. And here we, for example, have the apps, and then I have the analytics, I have the components of the analytics, and now I can go in here and check, is there anything wrong? There's probably things that are something that developers wouldn't do. And I see all the videos where developers are joking about this. But man, I know there are also so many developers, if I would pay them, they would do the same, if not worse, things if they code the things, because they just don't know better. If I realize it's messing up or it's not the quality that it's supposed to be, then I say, and that's something I did manually before, now I'm telling just Claude, if you could ask a question online, a comprehensive question about the problem that you're solving, what would it be? Go to Perplexity, ask a question and look at the answer for best practice and check if you're going the right direction or if the implementation is correct. And this is a big thing, because sometimes Opus just do some random things that it thinks it's correct, but then double checking with Perplexity and the current state of coding and options and so on out there, this readjusted Opus so many times into the right direction. So that's really powerful. So these 3 MCPs are really powerful because it takes off so much manual work going back and forth between these things. So this is it. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Do you have any suggestions, or maybe you didn't know about this? But be aware, vibe coding is not something that you're just vibing along. You might be able to make something simple or a website or something like that. But if you're serious to make a professional application like this one, which has authentication, it will have a synchronization with our actual user database. So we see their membership tiers and many things going on there that you need to have at least an overview and a general understanding of these things work, then it's not working. And if you don't have this, make a plan or start small. Start with something simple, make it more complex over time, and then start being open to learn how to solve these questions, because you cannot imagine how much I learned about coding and the different wording and all the things that developers are using by just creating this application and searching for solutions. And for example, the Venn diagram that you saw initially, this one, right? To calculate these centers in each region. This is something you just cannot tell out of the box AI. You have to get really deep, get an understanding how to calculate centroids. Something I didn't know. I said I studied physics, but man, I didn't know that how to calculate these centroids. But by asking the right questions on Perplexity, you get there, and then you can feed it back into Claude Code, which is math, and that's the best language you can talk to Claude. Say, hey, what about if we just calculate the centroids and make the drop zone around these centroids? And whenever there is more than one app, let's circulate them around these centroids. So the whole centroids became a system. So each centroid represents one of the overlaps of these. Well, that goes very deep. If you want to learn more about the logic behind my application, let me know in the comments below. Well, I just thought I want to share this journey with you. I'm really excited about this. It's not even a month that I started doing this, and that's already how far I got. And this makes me very confident that it's just getting better. This being said, to me, there is no better solution than Claude Code out there right now and using Opus 4. All right, and if you want to stay up to date with my next updates, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Happy to stay in touch. Catch you up next time.